Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, hey guys. No, first of all, some interesting conversations today. I like how you guys end with encouraging people to think for themselves. I think that's really important. Um, so basically, I wanted to keep with my theme of just talking about, rights and statism and all that. And I kind of just want to talk about rights as protections and protections from the government. So basically, I also care about actual freedom and prosperity for people. I just don't think that the philosophical freedom that maybe anarcho-capitalists propose everybody would have is actual freedom. Because if I look at a guy, who's like elderly and he's out of work and, his job has been eliminated and he doesn't have enough will to get back in the game, I think he's not free in the sense that market discipline makes him have to do things that he otherwise wouldn't do. And so if we can increase actual freedom, I would be happier than if we would have liberty in the sense of like property rights or something like that. That's why I'm not too upset.
Now, tell me more about what actual freedom would mean. What would the ideal freedom for this man be?
Well,
freedom from responsibility?
I think at a minimum, if there would be, like I said, wealth redistribution to the point where this person could survive, could have a minimal existence where
so
they could,
in that world, just curious, in the world with the wealth redistribution that you're thinking of, in theory, everyone could just survive then, right? Like that would be the idea. Like if I didn't want to work, I could just get the survival check, right?
Of course, that would be real freedom.
Cool. So
yeah.
what if like most people decided they wanted the survival check? Rather than, because work sucks. I'd like to just say, go into a job for a lot of people in this world is not a pleasant experience. Now they do it because they know it's a way to get some money and so they can have things they enjoy, etc. And I imagine what you would suggest would be that the survival check probably wouldn't pay as well as maybe actually doing something productive in your ideal world. Would that be true?
Exactly.
Okay,
and
but a lot of people are okay with just surviving. A lot of people are okay with it because while they're surviving, they can also be doing things like selling drugs and selling sex on the side so they can supplement their incomes.
Work under the table in other ways.
Yeah, work under the table, get the survival check in, cash that, and then make some more money in Bitcoin or whatever.
Yeah, that's really the problem I have with this, Greg, is that we pulled ourselves up out of that one-celled world by the need to survive. And what you're doing is you're taking away people's need to survive. You're saying to the human species, everything's fine. You've done okay now. You could just relax.
That sounds great to me. I would love to just sit back and get high and play video games all day long. And that's what you would be allowing me to do, right? Just because I was born and I exist. I deserve that.
Well, I mean, I think I'm playing the freedom card here. I'm saying you guys are basically arguing to force people to work, to create conditions where you're saying it's
not at all. No one's forcing anyone to work. You could always go out and live in the woods and then, live off the land. That wouldn't be a problem. You have that freedom.
Right, exactly. And I'm saying you're basically admitting that if they had the freedom, many of them would choose not to work.
I would not. Liberty is different than freedom. So liberty doesn't mean freedom from consequences. You have the consequences of your actions, which is to say that if you choose not to work, you will not get anything for free. Where do you think these working people are going to come from? Don't you think that you're just going to stifle innovation everywhere?
I think the current system is actually perverse. I'll explain. For example, just let me explain this. Right now, and I'm talking about right now in the America that we live today. A friend of mine, his daughter works in a pharmacy. She has to work 10 hours a day, 11 hours with no overtime pay because she's afraid to lose her job. Meanwhile, another person trying to get that same job is denied. The company doesn't want to hire them. So if you remove the money aspect, look how perverse it is. Those two people could have had normal hours, could have gone home and done better work. But because that they don't have that safety net, it's perverse. So it's actually worse and it's less efficient without the safety net right now. And it's less free.
So your claim is, let's just make sure I understood what you just said. Your claim is that the person working in the pharmacy that you're talking about, if they knew they had this subsistence check available to them, that they could just walk away from a job they didn't like for as long as they felt they needed to, and then they could get another job whenever they felt like they wanted, right?
It would empower the people. That subsistence check would be unconditional whether you work or not. So they would,
right.
Right.
So
they
how?
would
I'm just
basically
curious.
say-
Out of 100, let's just say, out of 100 people in this theoretical world of yours, out of 100 of them, how many of them would accept the subsistence check, and how many of them would seek work?
Well, it's not an either or. They get the subsistence check no matter what. So what I'm saying is,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
But don't you think that if a majority of people got this subsistence check
worth
and
nothing.
liked it, then shouldn't they demand a higher rate over time? I mean, wouldn't they be able to say,
Bingo.
look, I was getting $100, but $100 isn't quite enough. I can only afford a regular phone, not a smartphone, and I've got a human right to a smartphone. So then they'd be just continually voting themselves more stuff. And the people, at some point, the guy at the top says, you know what? Screw this. I'm going to take my money and I'm going to stop providing jobs.
hold on a second. This is why I say a minimum subsistence check. But then what you would see, and this is very crucial, you wouldn't see the 99% against the 1% saying that, oh, we don't have any power. Because what would happen is the people would say, instead of saying, oh, sir, can I work for you 10 hours, 11 hours, sir, just don't fire me, they would say, what's in it for me? Why should I work for you 10 hours when I can work for you 6 hours? I'd rather have a part-time job and do something else with my life that's more productive, like with my family, for example.
You can already negotiate with employers to get the hours that you want.
I've got to say that the idea of an employee working part-time is less valuable to me than an employee working full-time. I want somebody dedicated to the job.
And what about the business
But you
owners? I
realize-
mean, they're getting screwed in this deal, right?
No, it's not the business owners that are getting screwed. The business owners could hire the two people, right? They could hire that person who they don't want to hire.
No, they couldn't.
and pay
Those
them-
two people could do whatever they wanted. What you're doing is you're creating a world where everybody says, if I don't get to do the job that I love, I'll just not work. And they'll never work themselves up. I've got a job that many people would love to have, but I wash dishes, I put roofs on houses, I worked at a convenience store, I waited tables.
You went to prison.
Well, I mean, all these things, that wasn't really part of it. But I mean, I worked my butt off to get to the point where I was, and I got lucky because I showed up every day.
Greg, thanks for the call tonight. Let's go to Jonathan in West Virginia. You're on Free Talk Live. Jonathan.
Hi, guys. Just with the topic that was just brought up with the socialist sort of mindset of redistributing wealth and the idea that it works out. And it's funny because the Romans tried it in ancient Rome of just giving out food to those that had need. And so the initial result was that the farmers quit growing food because nobody was buying for it because the government was just distributing it for free.
Right. What's their incentive? I mean, the argument would be that their incentive would be for the betterment of mankind. But if you're out there busting your back in the fields, pulling corn or whatever it is you're pulling, and you're spending hours per day doing that work, and then everybody's just sitting around collecting a check, and they're not doing that level of work, that's going to really grind at you at some point, and you're going to say, "Screw this."
Oh, absolutely. And the problem with it, even just, and some of these people are sincere because they honestly believe.
Oh,
but
yeah.
the problem, and those people who actually hold to the socialist mindset, is they judge based upon sort of reflecting, well, they think that they would do those things, and so they believe that obviously everybody else would do it, and so they sort of project their own morality upon everybody else.
Yeah, that's true.
And so at the end of it, it's just you're presupposing before anything that the morality level is the same amongst every single individual in the entire group.
Good point.
Right. I had a situation at one point where I was taken care of. I had enough money to
Sugar mama?
I had my mama, essentially. I had a situation where I didn't have to work very hard. Everything wasn't perfect by any means, but I didn't have to work if I didn't want to. I just, got up whenever I want, went to sleep whenever I want, drank whatever I want. Pretty soon I'm ready to put a bullet in my head. I mean, seriously, the only time I ever considered suicide, the only time I considered suicide for a moment was when I didn't have a job.
Wow. Hey, thanks, Jonathan, for the call. We're out of time for tonight, but we'll be back tomorrow. You can join us online in the meantime at freetalklive.com. We will see you there.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.